Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours that you're having an absolutely fantastic week. Isn't it nice to sort of feel a little bit of positivity in the air? Well, at least I'm trying to think that way. I always believe tomorrow's going to be a better day than today and the previous one and last week, and whatever might have ailed us or might have made us angry or might have made us sad, that we can always look forward to and be guaranteed the sun will rise tomorrow, even if it's a cloudy, overcast day, and the world will seem fresh and new again. And that's always been my philosophy ever since I've been a little child, was that I tried to look upon the bright side in life. I think there's enough misery to go round without me adding to it. And it's a philosophy that I've carried with me all my life, even in my darkest days, and we all have them, that I try to find at least one positive reason to be alive and something to celebrate. Celebrate the ability to be here, to be breathing, to be with the people that we love the most, and to share a little bit of sunshine along the way with the people that we meet or the people that we might talk to or communicate with during the day. So this brings me to the tarot card of the week, and I've decided we're going to alternate month by month. This month's going to be the Simply Tarot set, my baby, which is very, very old now. So this is the Moon card. Now, the Moon is a very ambiguous sort of card because people sort of tend to think of the Moon and they think, oh, goody, the full moon, or I've got to get my crystals out, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. Well, yes, they can all apply. But the Moon is a card of emotions. It's a card of deception or delays, emotions up or down, maybe deceiving yourself or others. So let's break this up a little bit. The Moon can be the card of deception or delays because it's sometimes a darkness. There's things that are hidden from us. There's things that are not ready yet to be revealed. And sometimes it can seem as if it's deceptive or if it's delaying the inevitable or delaying a decision that might need to be made. Now, this is where our emotions come into it. Now, not every emotion connected to the Moon is negative or necessarily has to be a downer. Emotions can be very uplifting. So we can have a really up emotional mood because of the Moon. You know, we can look at the full moon and sort of think, wow, my life is very, very full, that I've got a lot to be thankful for. On the opposite side of that, we can look at the full moon and say, or any sort of moon and say, gee, I don't feel very good today. I feel a little bit down. I feel a little bit upset. You know, things aren't going well in my life. The most important thing I think we need to be careful of when we draw this card is maybe we're deceiving ourselves or potentially others. Now, quite often we can deceive ourselves as human beings. We don't necessarily want to accept the truth or what's as plain as the nose on your face because we're hoping for or wishing for a different outcome or wishing for someone to be something that they're not. So this is where we have to be very careful that we're not deceiving ourselves, and more importantly, make sure we're not deceiving someone else. We're not putting on an act or we're pretending to be something that we're not because we think it's going to make that other person love us more or be happier with us or like us more or we're going to be more popular or more successful. We need to always be ourselves. And I think that's a very important card at the moment with so many changes that are going on around the world. And look, COVID is still ravaging everywhere. And there's a lot of people sort of talking about what we should and shouldn't do as countries and as a globe. And I think we all need to sort of stop being so emotional about it and say, this is the reality. Let's look at the science. Let's look at what we know. Look at how far we've come, and let's try and set aside a plan to help us get through this as a globe, not just as an individual. So I think if we all do that, we might find some more answers. So let's get on to the astrology part of the show, and this has become a very major part of my show in the last 12 months or so, particularly with COVID, because everybody is still searching for answers. Everybody's struggling with what's the new normal, what's tomorrow going to look like. Have we got through the worst of it? Is there, an end at the light of this very dark tunnel? Do we see light? Do we ever see some sort of normality coming back again? And I think it's something that most of us never really understood what a pandemic was when it started. And it was sort of one of those words that people threw around that, was back in history. But I don't think we ever realised we were all going to live and get a front row seat to a pandemic and how it plays out and how it changes our lives. and how, there's good and bad in everything that happens in our lives, or positives and negatives. But I don't think most of us realised how it was going to change things for such a lengthy period of time. We all went into our first initial lockdowns with thinking, okay, we go into this lockdown for however long this is going to be. We miraculously come out the other side and they flick the light switch on and everything goes back to normal. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. That seemed to be a round of, very sudden changes in all of our lives, no matter where you are in this planet. 1 minute you're in lockdown, the next minute you're out, next minute you can do this, and then you can't do that. And you go to walk out the door of a day and you have to sort of check to see what restrictions are in place and what you need to do and where you can go, and do you need a mask, and all these sort of things. So we've all had our lives disrupted in the last 12 months. And it doesn't surprise me that Uranus, I believe, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, has been the one that's changed our value systems. He's been sitting comfortably in Taurus now for about 3 years, but really ramping it up, I believe, in this last 12 months, where he's been sort of really asking us to look at what we value. And all of a sudden, for a lot of people, their value systems changed with sort of like the snap of the fingers. All of a sudden, family life, being together with the people that you love and you care about, became the number one priority, because that was taken away from us with this pandemic. And all of a sudden, we started to realise how important and how valuable those relationships are that we took for granted. Just being able to pop in and see your parents, or pop in and see a neighbour, or pop in and see your best friend. And all of a sudden, that freedom was taken away from you. All of a sudden, we had to sort of check on the local restrictions at whether or not that was allowed. So all of a sudden, devices and technology and telephones and Skype services and things like that became overloaded, because that was our new normal. It was our only way of being able to contact the people that we loved. And yes, we've adapted, and yes, we've made changes, and we've found creative ways to find solutions around to try and keep this planet ticking over. But for many of us, it's left a mark on us, a mark that probably won't ever fade. It's sort of shown us how vulnerable we are to something that we had no control over. The only control we had was over ourselves and our own behaviour. But that didn't stop a virus. It didn't stop our potential to catch it, other than listening to what was guided by science and our local environments. But it still didn't prevent a lot of people from catching this terrible illness, and, a lot of people not making it through the other side. So we're still in the grips of it. It's still raging in parts of the world, and seemingly out of control in places like India and Brazil at the moment. And our hearts and our prayers go out to them. I think we all need to be focused on, let's look at what we can do as individuals. And this is what I think the planet Uranus in Taurus is asking us to do, is, we've had the rug pulled from underneath us. Now we've got to find innovative, different ways of coping with what's our new normal. So Uranus is conjunct or holding hands with the Sun, which the Sun is doing his yearly transit through Taurus. So it's about our value systems. It's about how we value our personal money, our personal possessions, our relationships, and the things that are important to us. For some people, they may find that this is a time of the year where they want to slow down a little bit and just really sort of be in their own head and start looking at their personal finances and what their projections are for the next 12 months, maybe doing a new family budget. Things like that come into play at the moment. But I think for a lot of us, I think it's about looking at what we've learned in this last 12 to 14 months since we've been in a pandemic, and how can we take some positives out of this moving forward? What is the new family structure? What are our new rules for ourselves? What does our new life look like? What have we learned about ourselves, and what is important to us? These are very, very big questions, and they may not be able to be answered in 5 minutes. They may be a work in progress, and that's fine. We don't always have all the answers right this second, but we can be progressively working on things. And that's what I think the Taurian energy is about: slow, deliberate, and definite. Is that we have the time, we can put down a really solid foundation on which we can build upon. So we have Venus, the planet of love and and affection is in its home sign of Taurus. So Venus does rule Taurus. So it feels very comfortable here. Venus wants to make everything really comfortable in our lives. Bring us some comfort, bring us some nice food, bring us some comfort food, bring us pretty things to look at. This is, rules the arts and anything that's aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Venus loves comfort. Venus loves to sort of adorn themselves with pretty objects around them and a nice comfortable sofa to sit on. And don't forget, we need a good solid hearty meal at the end of the day. They're all the Venus sort of traits. Now, Venus is holding hands or conjunct the planet of communication. Now, the difference here with this conjunction is Venus is in Taurus, but the planet of communication, Mercury, is actually in the next sign of Gemini. Just because they're holding hands doesn't necessarily mean they have to be in the same sign. Now, where I think this makes this conjunction very interesting is because Venus is in Taurus and Mercury is in Gemini, we get the flavors of both energies. So we've got Venus sort of doing her dance in Taurus, wanting to make us feel comfortable and sort of give us a little treat or two. But we've got Mercury, on the other hand, comfortably sitting in his own sign too of Gemini, saying, okay, where's the brilliant ideas? Where's the new things that we can be looking at? What's going on in my neighborhood? What can I get involved with? What can I learn? Who can I talk to? How can I get out of the house? So it's sort of like, it's a conflicting sort of energy in one way. One part of you is wanting to stay home and sit on the comfortable sofa and watch the telly and eat chocolates and, treat yourself to something special. And the other part of you is being pulled to get out there and explore the neighbourhood and talk to this one and that one, COVID permitting, of course, that, you've been locked up for too long. Let's get out. Let's have some fresh air. Let's have some fun. So be aware of that. There could be a bit of a seesaw there on, what you need to be doing for the day and how your day is going to progress. We also have the moon, which is a very fast-moving planet, only sits in a sign for 2.5 days, is conjunct or holding hands Jupiter, the planet of expansion, opportunity and luck, sitting in Aquarius. So interestingly enough here, I think the moon's going to be the trigger point for us to be able to expand opportunities in our life. So it's again coming back to like the moon card of the tarot. It's asking us to look at things in a positive or a negative, make sure we're not deceiving ourselves or anyone else. Let's look at this in a positive, upswinging way that we can use our very strong energy of our emotions to drive us forward, to maybe expand into horizons that we never thought were possible, or to open our eyes to look at it through different lenses. Because anytime you have the Aquarian energy involved, it's asking you to think outside the square. It's asking you to look at things in a different way. It's also asking you to sort of shake off the shackles of things that you knew in the past, and let's look for some new innovative answers in our way forward. So we've got some really exciting things happening astrologically this week around the planet. We've got opportunities to have some creative new ways of looking at situations and being able to problem solve in maybe a different way to the way we did before. Now, we've got Mars, the planet of action, is sitting in Cancer at the moment. Now, Mars feels relatively comfortable there. I know a lot of astrologers would disagree with me, but I just sort of think the action-packed energy of Mars, the planet of war, and the one that makes you get up off the couch and says, come on, we're going to get this done today, and you go off with dogged determination and no one's going to stop you from achieving your goals. When it's sitting in a nice, watery, passive, sort of not necessarily a weak sign, but a sign that is very subtle, like Cancer, I actually think it just sort of calms that urgency down to where Mars can sort of collectively grab its own thoughts and sort of start to strategize and look at this in, okay, how can I subtly sneak up on this? How can I subtly infiltrate the things that I need to achieve in my life? I don't need to go marching in there like a bull in a china shop ready to go to war. I can have a battle, but in a calmer sort of way, which maybe will bring a better result. So maybe if you've got some issues that you've got to confront in your life this week, maybe look at how you can do them in a calmer sort of fashion, that you can sort of meet someone else halfway and sort of say, let's sit down and negotiate instead of having a ding-dong Barney over it or a ding-dong battle over it. Let's just find a calming, more mature way of approaching a subject. And of course, we still have our usual culprit. We've still got Pluto sitting in Capricorn, been there since 2008. We'll be there for approximately another 8 to 12 months. So, Pluto's sort of really starting to try and ramp up the transformation of the planet. And it's really important that we're seeing in the midst of this pandemic that climate change is still coming to the forefront, and so it should. It's not something that we should be ignoring. I think the world does need to change. The world needs to look at the things that aren't functioning, that aren't working, and try and find some creative new modern solutions going forward. We can't just continue to do what we've done in the past and keep saying, well, I don't know any other way to do things. We've got to find new answers. Now, whatever those answers are that are going to improve our environment going forward and what we're going to leave for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren is really important. We have to find innovative answers. We have to find things that can work, that are sustainable and are kind to the planet. And that may include looking at new food sources and things like that as well, and also looking at reducing our waste. Haven't we become such a greedy society where everything's packaged in plastic and paper and cardboard, and we get these really shiny, pretty package, and we take the object out of it, and it's, a quarter of the size of the packaging. We throw the packaging in landfill, and then we say, oh, well, that's that, and that lasts 6 months, and we go out and buy another one. Maybe we need to get back to making a toaster that actually cooks toast for the next 40 years instead of, we have to buy a new one every 12 months or so, or we want a different colour. Let's go back to some basics. I remember when I was a little girl, you didn't have a choice in the colour of the toaster. You were lucky if you had a toaster that worked, you were grateful. And we used to have to open the door and turn the toast over. We didn't have ones that popped it up and popped it on your plate and buttered it for you like we do today. So maybe we need to go back and look at history and some of the more simplistic things that we had. When people say, oh, in the good old days, life was simpler, well, maybe it was because we didn't have all these expectations. So maybe that's part of Pluto's role, is to ask us to go back and delve a little bit and look at what we used to be able to do and can we incorporate that into being part of our future. I'm not saying we all want to go back and have a toaster that we've got to turn the toast over ourselves, but maybe we can go back to basics and sort of build a toaster that we might pay a little bit more money for, but we get 20 or 40 years out of, and, the colour doesn't go out of fashion because it's a neutral colour. They're just some thoughts I have this week. So let's go and talk with Sully in New York City. In New York, are you there, Sully? Oh,
I'm here.
Sully. Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
Yes. Regarding work.
Right. Okay, let me tune into that for you, Sully. Okay, first thing that they're showing me is that I don't feel particularly comfortable with whatever employment you've got at the moment. Is it the fact that it's not stable, or is it a combination of not being stable and you're not happy there? Because to me, it's just got a really temporary sort of, it's like I'm sitting on quicksand feel.
That's correct.
Okay. I do see another job coming up for you. I wish I could say it was this week. I don't think it's quite that soon. I'm sort of looking more towards the end of June, early July. I'm not saying that the current job that you're in is going to finish before then. What I'm going to say to you, you're really going to need to sort of safeguard your own energy. When you've got to go into work, I want you to sort of imagine just for a second before you walk through that door that you've put yourself in a protective bubble, that nothing can penetrate you, nothing can sort of, you're not going to pick up all the rotten vibes around the place. And even though people are sort of, chaotic, you don't necessarily need to absorb their chaotic energy. And that's the way I think you'll be able to survive this, next 6 to 8 weeks and sort of come out the other side, but also keeping yourself very motivated and very definite on the type of job that you want next. This next job has got to be something that we can put both feet and hands into and say, this is mine, and I want it to be mine for a long time. So have you been looking around to see what else is available?
I haven't started looking.
No. Okay. Look, I don't think it'd be such a bad idea just to get a feel for what's out there. I'm not necessarily saying I think the right job's going to jump up yet, but what I'm suggesting is, just say for argument's sake, you're a nurse. you want to go nursing, but you want to change from one part of the hospital to another. So we start to look at what's actually out there. What sort of qualifications are they looking for? What sort of money are they paying? If I add this certificate to it or I add something else to my skill set, does that put me in a better position? These are the questions I want you to answer for yourself at the moment in the direction you want to take your work. Then you can start to see how many positions are coming up that suit the direction you want to go. You want to get a feel so that when you do start to go for interviews, that you're in a position of power, that you know exactly what, approximately the base rate of pay is going to be, what you want it to be for you, how close you want it to be from home, what sort of hours you want, and what's sort of going to be expected of you in these roles. So it's sort of like doing your homework now so that we can put you in a position of much more power. With this job, though, are you looking to make a change of residence as well?
No, not right now.
Okay, the reason I asked, because I got the job first, and then I sort of felt within 6 months after that, I kept seeing question marks around where you were living. So I wasn't sure how to interpret that, whether that meant that you wanted to make a change or whether it was because of the job being so good, it put you in a better financial position that you could start to look at things and say, okay, well, now I'm in a position of choice. Do I want to move or do I not? That was sort of more how I took it. But because the question marks were there relatively quickly, just after you got the job, that was what made me question whether or not they went hand in hand. I didn't mean a change of area. I don't mean packing up and moving interstate or anything like that, or moving states. To me, this was sort of like, the opportunity to move into something that better suited to you, still staying in New York.
I see. Okay.
But I think all in all, you're handling everything right. You're really listening to what your instincts are telling you, and you're not sort of jumping ahead of time. So that's where we've got to leave it, sweetie. I wish you well with your job hunting, and I know everything's going to go great. We're going to talk now with Carol in Woodbury in Georgia in the US. Are you there, Carol?
Yes.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Carol?
Huh?
Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
Yes, I'm just, I endured a loss this past weekend, and I'm just wanting to know, how things are going to go.
Okay.
The rest of this time.
Okay. Carol, the first thing I'm picking up around you, has this last 12 to 18 months been very, very difficult on the emotions? And I'm not just talking about because of COVID, but has there been a number of changes or loss or something in the family? Because I've got a lot of tears that have flowed.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like I want to say to you, look, don't look back at that and say, gee, that was a waste, or I should have stopped before this, or whatever. It wasn't just the tears of the last 18 months. I want to say to you, I think we were also releasing a lot from your past. And I'd even go way back to childhood, Carol. It was like an almighty sort of purge of a lot of older emotions as well as the current stuff. But I'm happy to say they're showing me that the tears are, if not already gone, are just about to be gone. So to me, that sort of is indicating we're opening a new door to something that's a lot more positive than what we've been through. And it's not saying that we shouldn't sort of own what you've gone through. I'm not asking you to do that. But I think it's time now we can sort of say we can open the door now to Carol's life becoming with a ray of sunshine in it again. And that's a good thing, because it has been, I don't think just the last 18 months, I think I'd like to stretch it back to about 3.5 years, Carol. From when this sort of started, it was just this last 18 months was sort of more than your soul could bear. And it was like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Well, I'm pleased to say you've come out the other side. You get a packet of gold stars for being such a good student, but now we need to open the door to some sunshine.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to say I think you've learned a lot about yourself. It's sort of like, I don't want you to think you've become too hard, because I don't believe that. I think what you've become now, Carol, is decisive. It's like, if this doesn't suit me and you ask me to do something, the answer's either yes or no. I'm not going to give you an explanation. I've given you my answer. Now let's move forward. And that's being decisive. That's not being nasty or anything like that. It's just putting Carol in the number one spot for a change. And this is very overdue, I might add. So this is good. The more you learn to be able to say, decisively what your answer is without an explanation, the stronger you're going to get. And the more things that you want in your life are going to come towards you because you are showing a very decisive, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I'll accept, and that's what I don't want. And it's sort of like all of a sudden things start to become much more streamlined. They are showing me more money, but they weren't showing me why, Carol. So I can only assume from that, whatever your source of income is, it's like we're expanding that out. It's like it's puffing up. There's becoming more of it. So that's a good sign. But I also want to say whatever you've done health-wise, particularly in this last 8 months, whatever changes you've made, and that could be something as simple as adding more water to your life, keep it up because we're starting to see the rewards for the choices and the changes you made with your health. Your body is starting to respond a lot more, and that's good. And, each day you're getting that little bit stronger, and that's good too. They're also showing me a majorly big pink heart. Now, normally that means new love in your life. Are you looking for new love, or is it the resurgence of love within the current relationship?
Mostly in the current relationship.
Good. Well, that's good because it was ginormous, this heart, and it was really, I felt light and happy and excited, like I could dance with excitement with this. So I think the next 12 months are certainly going to be very different to the last 12 months. You've got be very careful what you wish for and what you voice because it may just happen. So we need to make sure that anything that comes out of your mouth is positive, is decisive, is exactly what you want. And I think it's your time that you can go into the wishing well, Carol, and it's well deserved. So that's where we're going to leave, Carol. We've come to the end of the show again. 30 minutes goes very, very quickly when you're having fun. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are in this amazing world of ours, in the next 7 days, make sure that you're kind to each other, put a smile on your face, but more importantly, make sure that you're truthful. Don't tell somebody something that's not true. Be yourself, be happy, be smiling, and be considerate of other people because sometimes they may not be having the best day. So show a little kindness, and the most beautiful thing you can do is smile. Bye for now.